Greetings. I guess I should say up front that I'm new here, so be patient with me, as I don't know all the rules or etiquette or whatnot. A friend of mine linked me to this board after I told him the story and showed him the materials I'm about to share with you. He thinks some of you will appreciate it, but to be honest, from where I'm sitting, this site seems more like behavior for idiots than a serious image board. Whatever. I'm motivated to share this stuff and need to do so because anonymously, anonymously, for reasons which will become clear. Technically, I'll be breaking, but if I understand how this place works, this will disappear in a day or so. So here's the deal. I am a production editor at a small independent publisher in the U.S. I won't say which or where, so don't ask, as I like to keep my job. The pay isn't that great, but it's an easy gig, and I like to be my well with. A lot of what we publish are what you'd call coffee table books. The kind people flip through when they're bored, but almost nobody ever reads cover to cover. Bland pictorial histories of certain cities or statues that sell well in regional gift shops, the occasional books of maps or biography. A few museums outsource their gallery catalogs to us, that kind of thing. The work is boring, but it's steady, and we get enough jobs and our books make enough money to stay afloat, which is a lot more than most small presses can say about these days. Be- because we've been around for a while, our name is somewhat known to the history buffs, and people who think they're an expert on such and such town in nowhere, Idaho, or some esoteric topic nobody really cares about. We got a lot of unsolicited manuscripts from people that really shouldn't be writing books, and unsolicited CDs full of photographs from people that shouldn't be taking pictures. Because we're small and don't have separate acquisition editor position, the job that's going through this slush pile gets passed around the office. Very rarely, someone will find something worth pursuing and pitch it to the rest of us. But our senior editor publisher gets the final say. For the last 9 months, I've been working more or less nonstop on a book that every day at the office was pretty excited about. The office was pretty excited about. Our copy editor found it during his turn with the pile. An old guy, I won't name, had contacted us out of the blue and offered us a chance to publish his rare archival photo collection, provided that we treat the subject matter with the respect and seriousness he felt it deserved. To use his term, and what was going to be the book's title, the photos were all anomalies. That is to say, they depicted something out of the ordinary or otherwise inexplicable. Something that usually had an equally interesting story to go along with it. Most of them were from the first half of the 20th century. Like I said, it's not the kind of thing we normally publish, but the few samples that guy sent in with his letter were pretty compelling. And once we had seen the rest of them, heard, heard a few of their stories, and realized that none of these pictures were widely known, we knew we had something that could get people's attention. The format was going to be simple and classic, with a lot of white space in the breathing room. Each photo would appear as a high quality print on the right hand page, followed by a blank left hand page, and then a couple of paragraphs to caption each photo on the following right hand page. From the very beginning, the guy was a nightmare to work with, and the job took forever because he refused sending more than one document at a time. He would send me a certified mail. I could get it, scan it, and mail it back certified. And only then would he send the next one. He seemed to think he had an extremely valuable collection and was hugely paranoid about losing it, so he only risked one item at a time. In the end, we spent so much money on mailing costs that it would have been cheaper to fly me to where the old guy lived with the scanner and a laptop. We were maybe a third of the way through the production process when this guy pulled the rug out from under us. Somebody offered him a large sum of money for the photos, way more than we were offering for the book rights, on the condition that our books got canned and the photos stayed out of the public eye. We demanded to come in for a face-to-face and try to reason with him. and cater to its pride and desire for scholarly acclaim. And for a few days, it seemed like it worked. But when he got back home, he flip-flopped again and started cursing out me and my senior editor on the phone, demanding we shelve the book. He hired a lawyer who came up with some BS to avoid his contract, and then he threatened us with a lawsuit that would bankrupt us if he went ahead with the project and lost. To add insult to injury, the law firm sent us annoying little IT guy to our office to make sure that we wipe from our computers, because the vast majority of it existed on my machine. And I spent literally months of my life on the project. I felt as if you were violated and bitter about the whole thing. Somebody should benefit from all that work, hence my reasons for coming here. Unfortunately, I don't have high enough resolution scans. I made the photos, but I did keep working drafts with the original captions and 14 medium res solution placeholder thumbnails that Quark created as I was laying out the original version of the book. Don't ask me why we are still using Quark. It's what we know and what we paid for a long time ago. I'm not supposed to, but I occasionally take home the working Quark files to tweak on my home machine. The full file with the full resolution images embedded is way too large and unwieldy to bring home with me. Most of the time, I'm just experimenting with fonts and layout options anyway, so I don't embed the images until the end. Anyway, after all that crap went down, I discovered that I had a working file on my home machine of what we had done so far, so I produced a PDF document and stripped text messages from that PDF. You folks will be the beneficiaries of that. Just to be clear, I don't claim anything with regards to veracity or provenance of these photos. I'm not here to convince you they're real. I'm just putting them out there because I think they deserve to be seen, and I hope by some rich guy's private collection. Photo 1, 14. The Collingwood Fire. The Collingwood Fire. This is the last photo taken inside the Lakeview School in Collingwood, Ohio, before it was consumed by fire in March 4, 1908, killing 130 and one rescuer. The fire started when a ceiling joist ignited from a nearby steam pipe. Flames blocked the escape routes, leading to panic, and a stampede that trapped a large number in a stairwell where they were cooked alive. Additional casualties were incurred when burn jumped from second and third story windows. Everyone is photographed, except for Mr. Olson, seated in the far right in the back row. The spectral artifacts in the photo remain unexplained. Photo 2, 14. Charlie Noonan's last interview. Charlie Noonan was an amateur folklorist who traveled through the South and southwestern United States during the early years of the 20th century, collecting tall tales and stories of the supernatural. According to his wife, Ellie, Charlie was told a story one day by an Oklahoma farmer about a strange woman who lived alone on an isolated property in the panhandle. The farmer claimed the woman was not a woman at all, but something else. Something that hid its true nature beneath a headscarf and was never seen without a large dog by its side. Noonan was apparently intrigued enough to try searching for this woman during one of his research road trips. He was never seen again. Ellie Noonan was later contacted by a Tulsa pawnbroker who remembered reading about her husband's disappearance in the papers. After finding his name engraved on a camera sold to him by an itinerant, the pawnbroker returned the camera, and Mrs. Noonan had the film inside developed in the hopes of finding a clue as to his whereabouts. This is the only photo on the roll. Unfortunately, neither the location of the property nor the name of the farmer who told the story was recorded in Noonan's notes. Photo 3, 14. The death of John Olstead. A prophetically torn photograph depicts the original colored guard of the Union Army, 1 month before they marched into battle in Anaheim, September 1862, around the time of the Civil War. The gentleman on the far right, named John Olstead, had the right side of his face and right arm blown off by a cannon fire at the start of those hostilities. It's unknown exactly when the damage of the photo occurred. Photo 4, 14. The Accent of New Orleans. Edouard Martel was an unsuccessful French photographer and inventor who traveled throughout the US during the first 2 decades of the 20th century, trying to draw interest and investors for a device that at a time for an automatic exposure, featuring to Kodak's popular line of folding brownie cameras. During his travels, he took thousands of automated photos to test and refine his invention. Often he would wake up early, set up a hidden camera in an inconspicuous spot on the streets of whatever city he happened to be in, and then walk to a nearby cafe or bar so that he could capture candid scenes of daily life to remember his travel spot. The best of these photos were selected for Martel's one and only gallery show in Paris, 1924. Unfortunately, Martel died penniless and unknown in 1955, and it was left to his daughter Janine to sort through the boxes and boxes of photos he left behind to see what should be kept and what could be discarded. During the process, he came across this photo taken in New Orleans on the morning of October 18, 1919, a few hours before Martel board a steamship and returned to France. It turns out that Martel hated motion blurs in his photographs because he thought they would reflect badly on the speed and accuracy of his lens mechanism. The prejudice made him cast aside and overlook what was probably the most important photo he ever took. What made the photo so special? The night before it was taken, the notorious and still identified serial killer, known only as the Axeman of New Orleans, had committed his last Mike to death in his bedroom and then fleeing the scene just as his perpetrator's wife was discovering him. Could this be him returning to his residence? It's impossible to say, but if it is, the image appears to belie the legend, based on the shaky testimony of Pauline and Mary Bruno, and prevailing prejudice at the time, that only a black man was capable. How unfortunate times were back then. How unfortunate time. Photo 5, 14. The Grand Cavern's Cryptids. This photo was taken in 1895 by amateur spelunker photographer named Orrin Jeffries while exploring an unnamed section of the Grand Caverns in southwestern Virginia. At the time it was taken, Jeffries was conducting photographic experiments using super long exposure to see if anything at all could be used in the total absence of light, otherwise known as cave darkness. He would situate himself on level ground, extinguish his lantern, and then open the lens of his homemade box camera for as long as he could stand in darkness. During one of these experiments, he heard something approach from the deeper recesses of the cave. Frightened, Jeffries abandoned his experiment and set off one of the blitzlicht flashes he used for taking traditional photos underground. According to the report he later gave to a local newspaper, Jeffries saw 3 humanoid creatures staring at him from the shadows and took off running in the other direction, not stopping until he was stopped. Several days later, he returned with 3 other men to retrieve his box camera. This is the image that was reported on the film inside. Photo 6, 14. The Hollow Twins. 1938. Evergreen Park, Illinois, outside Chicago. Billy and Stevie Hollow were riding in the front seat of them with their mother Tammy when their Ford sedan collided with their Chrysler. During the collision, the car spun in such a way that it impacted 2 additional vehicles. Tammy Hollow survived through 2 windshield collectively. A crime scene photographer from the local paper took this shot of as the crew volunteers worked to free John Downing, the driver of the Chrysler. It appears that little Blue and Stevie stuck around to watch. Photo 7 out of 14. The Sorensen tragedy. The Sorensens were a Danish family who immigrated to the U.S. at the time between 1905 and 1906. They arrived with their eldest child, Anders Snorandong, and settled on a farmstead in Missouri. 3 more children, Simone, Friquet, and Mathai, Center right and in the wagon respectively. Soon followed. This photo, taken in 1916, captures all 4 children a few weeks before the tragedy. The 3 eldest kids were apparently playing fort in a hay barn that must have fallen asleep. Their father, Nicholas, drove a wooden hay sweep into the pot in this map. In locations accurately suggested by the photo, is suggested by a flaw in the photo. Mathilde, the youngest, was inside the house when her mother at the time, and according to the son of a neighbor, later interviewed by the author, the donkey later died in equally barbed wire. The final detail could not. The final detail could not be corroborated. Oh, come on, what did I do here? Oh, come on. I'll be right back. Alright, here we are. So that's on 714. Photo 8, 14. The specter of Viola Peters. Viola Peters was a well-known spinster who lived alone in a small little town in Kaysville, Georgia. She was much loved in the community for her charitable contributions to the Baptist church, the soup kitchen, and the local orphanage, especially during the Depression, when those institutions subsided almost entirely on her largesse. In July 1935, Viola was brutally attacked by a drifter named Tom Cullen, who had worked briefly in a nearby copper refinery. Cullen proceeded to stay at Viola's house and sat for an additional 17 days before he was caught and captured. A posse of enraged locals stormed the county jail, took Cullen and him from the old bridge over the Toccoa River. This photo was taken by Garrett Callahan, a witness to it caused quite a stir when it was published a few days later in the Atlantic Constitution. To most, it suggested that Viola's spirit achieved some military peace by attending her killer's execution. By some twisted minds saw her forlorn countenance of longing to get one last look at the one and all. Photo 9, 14. The Ghost of Sarah Eustace. Danvers City Hospital, formerly Danvers State Lunatic Asylum, was a Kirkbride-style psychiatric hospital built in 1874 on what was an isolated site in rural Massachusetts. Like all Kirkbride asylums, it's famous for its Gothic architecture and its use of now outdated medieval techniques to treat insanity. Danvers is often cited as the birthplace of the prefrontal. Danvers had several other claims to fame. It was inspired by the fictional Arkham Sanatorium, and creating several stories by H.P. Lovecraft, in which, in turn, inspired the Arkham Asylum in the fictional Batman universe. It was also where the cult horror film Session 9 was filmed. That film put the vast network of tunnels beneath Danvers to good cinematic effect. It's no accident the filmmakers chose to use tunnels, as rumors of their haunting had dogged Danvers for over 100 years. The most famous stories concern Sarah Eustace, a patient who escaped her ward in 1955 and snuck into the tunnel system. Despite multiple searches and a week-long lockdown at the asylum, Sarah was never seen again. It is assumed she died, lost, thirsty, and alone. A nurse at Danvers called Gail Malloy became obsessed with Sarah's story and spent many of her off hours searching the tunnels for her. Though she never found a body, she did snap this photo in late 1966, which suggests Sarah Eustace walks the Danvers tunnels to this very day. Photo 10, 14. The Stevenson family portrait. Who says ghosts don't have a sense of humor? The Stevensons were a wealthy Boston family, proud of their industry and longevity, in which most of the clan was blessed. This portrait, taken in 1945, was an effort to gather the oldest Stevensons together with one of their youngest, Emily Center, aged 102 years old, was granted the honor of matriarch, while little Ophelia was the token child at 18 months. What the Stevensons did not realize until this photo was developed, that they had been joined that day by one of their deceased, James Paulin Stevenson, born 1935, passed away 1932. Seated on the left between his niece, Finny, and his cousin Alfred, was easily identified by those present. and remember fondly as a rascally uncle known for his pranks and dirty jokes. Photo 11, 14. The disappearances of Mrs. Yerno. During her later years, Josephine Yerno would take a walk every evening at dusk around her beloved neighborhood of Norwich, Connecticut. On November 12, 1935, she set out as usual and never returned. Extensive searches were conducted by a large team of volunteers in the Norwich police force, but no sign of her was ever found. 3 years later, Mrs. Yuno was found squatting in front of a neighbor's house without a mark on her body and in perfect health. When asked where she had been, Mrs. Yuno was unable to understand the question. From her point of view, no time had passed at all. Against the advices of her neighbors and her doctor, she refused all medical treatment and resumed her life as nothing had ever happened, including her nightly strolls. Another neighbor snapped this shot of her in fall of 1938. Clouds of smoke from piles of burning leaves give it an apparently eerie feel. On the same date in November 1940, 5 years after her initial disappearances, Mrs. Yuno vanished again. This time, she was never seen again. Photo 12, 14. The fate of Sally York. The 1912 threshing of Little Agent in the cotton loom of the Norfolk Textile Mill was one of the handful of such actions that helped legislators push through the Keating-Only Act of 1916, the first child labor law in American history. From the first entirely accident to the mill's closing 4 decades later, workers consistently complained of cold spots, strange noises, and sudden taps on the shoulder when nobody was near. The mill's foreman never paid these complaints any mind until the photograph surfaced in 1932. It was taken by a traveling photographer named Benny Johnson, who promptly sold it to the Norfolk Gazette for an unprecedented $10. The mill was shut down for the Christmas holidays and was empty at the time. The photo was later blamed for the closing of the mill through the Great Depression was more likely the cause of that. Photo 13, 14. Lily Palmer's eyes. Lily Palmer was not quite 4 when she experimented with what the doctors would later call acute onset sensory hallucinations. This photo, taken by Lily's mother Annette on Halloween night, 1952, purportedly captured the arrival of her disorder. Lily and her Filipino nanny were setting out for a round of trick-or-treating when the child suddenly screamed and began to claw at her eye. It was some time before she was calm enough to speak, but when asked what she saw, Lily repeatedly spoke about things crawling in her eye. Several days later, while unsupervised in her bedroom, eyes with one of them punctured both of her with one of her mother's knitting needles. After receiving medical treatment, she was evaluated and committed. She remained in Bellevue, first at Bellevue on the east side of Manhattan, and later at the Rockland Psychiatrics in Orangeburg, where she remained until she died of a heart attack in March of 2001. A call to one of her former caregivers at Rockland confirmed that the episodes were most traumatic on and around Halloween night, but from the majority of her life, she could be heard begging and pleading with the staff to help her get these things out of her eye. Photo 14. The final photo. The Trinity Deception. This is one of several photographs taken on the first ever nuclear detonation, conducted by the U.S. Army on July 16, 1945, in the White Sands Proving Grounds located in Jonana del Muerto Desert, 35 miles southeast of Sirocco, New Mexico. The setting off of this implosion-designed plutonium device, the same method used in the Fat Man device and dropped in Nagasaki, ushered in the atomic age of the eventual arms between the U.S. and Russia. Only a handful of people were aware that this photo was cropped before it was ever released to the public. They are all now deceased. One of them was the original photographer, who gave the author a copy of the original on the condition it be kept out of the public eye until such a time that the citizens of the world could handle the ramifications of what it depicts. The author remains unclear whether this criteria had been met, though, but given that he likely owns the last existing copy, he has decided his responsibility rests with the truth. That was historical creepypasta known as Anomaly. My opinions on the story. I have to say that it's pretty interesting that I have to say it's a pretty good story. It gives like the drop it gives you like a background of where see and then it actually does provide photographs of these things of the timing, which act and not to mention the details of what they goes on, which kind of gives the story a lot of credibility. Gives the story a lot of credibility. Now, and for example, let's say for example, there's photo four where this guy took the act. Now, I don't know if this has ever been solved or not, but if it was, thank goodness he that's a guy that cheat. Although he's probably deceased by now. And for and let's say for 012. Now it's absolutely awful. Now it's absolutely mind-boggling how these were not enforced by this. I mean, it's absolutely awful. I mean, child labor is absolutely awful, and in my opinion, I hope we never see anything like that happening again. It was truly awful. So that was Channel 4, episode 27. And we're on our last week of our Channel 4 series, guys. The season finale is gonna be on Halloween night. And then I'm gonna be resuming my gaming videos and streams. Although I do have Call of Duty Black Ops 6 coming in. It's supposed to I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday is when it's supposed to come in. So I have that to look forward to. So I think what I'll do for that is I might stream campaign first and then do some streaming on multiplayer. So anyways, hope to see you all in the next video. Subscribe and smash the like button. Hopefully we can try and close in on 100 subscribers. I'll see you next time. Bye.